Hello and welcome to the Power Boost meditation. Today, let us experiment with the theme Starve the ego, feed the soul. Starve the ego, feed the soul. On our spiritual journey, the more we practice being self aware, the more we practice soul consciousness, one of the main obstructions comes in the way of ego. As we all know, ego is kind of a false image that we create of ourselves. The image that isn't a true representation of who we are. An image that is temporary, that keeps on changing. And that false image has been there, imprinted into the impressions of the soul. And that's why this ego pops up in one form or another, time and again. But the good news is that the ego is in our own control. The more I feed the ego, the more it grows bigger and bigger. A sign of a very big ego is that I'll be easily hurt by others. I'll be easily influenced by others' opinions. It's like the balloon is, it's like the balloon is very big, large. The more I starve the ego, means I don't pay attention to that false image. My thought patterns are not reinforcing that image. Then automatically the ego bubble shrinks. And ultimately it will, just become very, very small. And ultimately the soul experiences a stage that is ego-less. And as the ego is being starved, the soul is also being fed. The more I pay attention to the soul, to the spiritual being, to the being of light, to the being of truth, then the soul becomes bigger and bigger in my consciousness. And then the space that ego had taken up gets freed up, and then I become completely then soul conscious. And that's why this journey from being egoless to being bodiless, or being egoless to being completely soul conscious, is what we're all on. And the control is in our hands. The more I feed the ego, the more it becomes bigger. The more I feed the soul, the more the soul becomes bigger. So today, let us go into the depths of this understanding and experience that I consciously create thoughts that feed the soul. And if I am not feeding the soul consciously, then because the ego has been fed for a long, long time, the ego mind, the ego self actually pops up readily. And it becomes difficult to even identify because there's so many subtleties of this ego. And that's why the more I just pay attention on feeding the soul with the truth, the thoughts of truth, the experience of truth, the more the ego ceases to exist. So let us experiment today with these thoughts for some time. Starve the ego and feed the soul. As we sit back relaxed, we realize that our truth is that we are spiritual beings of light. But often we forget this truth and we live in the world of illusion, the world where ego rules. And so over the years, I've created many layers of these false images, false identities, on top of the true identity. And these layers of ego often come into the way of the experience of my reality in a natural way. And so I take this time out to identify the various thought patterns, the various layers that often come into my way of experiencing the truth. And I realize that I can easily let go of them by starving ego, by not feeding ego. And a very easy way of not feeding the ego is to just go beyond into the dimension where the ego ceases to exist, the dimension where the truth of the soul prevails. I easily go above and beyond the line of truth. When I have gone beyond this line, then I stay in the realm of truth. A story world where the ego exists lies on the other side of the line. And my real world, where the soul exists naturally, is where I am, in the dimension of silence, in the dimension where there is no other thought, no thought of the story exists in this dimension. This is the dimension of vast ocean of light, where I, the soul, I see myself as a beautiful being of light. I hold my true image of being this being of light, uninfluenced, unperturbed, unmoved by anything else that happens in the story world. I, the soul, take all my support from my truth. I live here with my eternal family of stars. All of us beings of light shine here brightly. Here we are in the presence of the divine who is the only being who never comes under the spell of illusion. And that's why the divine is ever egoless. The more I, the soul, experience the presence of the divine, all the layers of false identities are removed. And I just soak in the presence of absolute truth. The divine presence is a very loving presence. The divine accepts me unconditionally. The truth that the divine holds enters me. And I, the soul, I shine in this brilliance. I'm completely absorbed in this truth, in the silent love of the One. Having forgotten all the other roles and labels, they're all in another dimension that doesn't need my attention right now. All my love, my attention is towards the One. And this experience emerges within me an egoless mind. A mind that is completely benevolent. There is no trace of any arrogance. The gentleness and humility within the soul emerges from this love of the One. I begin to see everything and everyone with this lens of deep love and deep regard, without any expectations, without any limitations. As the ego dies, the soul awakens. The soul is awakened to the truth. The soul is awakened by the divine. And I, the awake soul, as I enter back into the story, I come with this realization of being egoless. My whole identity lies outside the story. I don't take any support from the story. From being egoless, I easily maintain the soul consciousness within my actions and interactions. I starve the ego and feed the soul. Om Shanti. Thank you.